Welcome to Forbidden Texts. What you are about to see may shock you. It may surprise you, but will definitely challenge everything you thought you knew. Stick around until the end to discover the forbidden knowledge that they don't want you to have.
What if I told you the reason your manifestations keep stalling isn't because you're doing it wrong? It's because you're still asleep. You've been told to visualize, to script, to feel the wish fulfilled. But what they never mention, what they can't teach you, is that until you wake up, truly wake up, you're manifesting through mud. You're using gasoline on a dead engine, wondering why it doesn't roar. Welcome to Forbidden Texts, where we explore ancient knowledge and forgotten wisdom. Here's the raw truth. Manifestation without awakening is like trying to tune into a cosmic frequency with broken antennas. You might catch some static, maybe a song for a second, but you'll never hold the signal. And that's why you're stuck. You've done everything by the book. Vision boards, affirmations. You've tried acting as if. And yet, the abundance doesn't last. The relationship never quite locks in. The freedom always feels almost. It's not because the universe isn't listening. It's because you're not aligned with the version of you that it's trying to give everything to. But we'll get there. Right now, ask yourself this: who is the you that's manifesting? The voice that's saying, I want, the version clinging to outcomes and checking the clock. Most people never question that voice. They call it me and start casting spells from a broken wand. Here's the twist. The mind that desires is often the same mind that sabotages. It's a loop, a trap, and you can't manifest your way out of a prison you don't even know you're in. This is why spiritual awakening isn't just a nice side quest. It's the main storyline. Because when you wake up, you don't just change your thoughts, you change the source of thought. You shift out of the limited identity that's trying to attract and step into the force that naturally creates. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's a reason your manifestations feel stuck. And that reason has nothing to do with the techniques you're using. You've been trying to plug into universal intelligence while still operating on a frequency you never chose. One that was programmed into you before you could even speak. And the moment you start peeling that back, everything changes. We'll go deeper. We'll dissect the awakening. We'll talk about frequencies, energy fields, and the dangerous power of letting go. And by the end, you'll understand not just how manifestation really works, but why, for the awakened, it's no longer a technique. It's a default setting. Keep watching. You've heard the phrase spiritual awakening tossed around like it's a wellness trend. But this isn't incense and mood lighting. This is a total identity death. A psychological ego collapse. A nuclear reset of the self you thought was running the show. Awakening is brutal before it's beautiful. It's the moment you realize everything you've been chasing, success, love, validation, was built on the assumption that you were incomplete, that you had to become something more in order to deserve what you desire. But then it hits you, the one who's been doing all the chasing. That's not you. That's the construct, the avatar, a bundle of thoughts, fears, traumas, social scripts. And when that illusion starts to dissolve, that's when the real power shows up. Not the kind you read about in manifestation books. Not think positive power. This is different. This is origin power. The kind that doesn't attract reality, it bends it. You begin to operate outside of time, outside of effort. You speak, and things move. You feel, and things shift. And the craziest part, you don't even care anymore whether they do or not. That's the paradox. That's the key. Because spiritual awakening shatters the illusion of separation. You don't become the magnet. You realize you were the field all along. But to get there, the house has to burn. The false self has to fall. And most people aren't ready for that. They'd rather keep scripting from the prison cell than walk through the fire and find the door was never locked. It's the stripping away of all the noise until only truth remains. And that truth doesn't manifest from desire. It manifests from knowing, from being. And once you've tasted that, manifestation isn't something you do. It's something that happens around you as a byproduct of your frequency. You stop chasing, and things begin to arrive. Not because you finally did it right, but because you finally remembered who you are. And that's just the beginning. Everything in this universe, everything, is frequency. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every belief you carry is vibrating at a specific rate. And that vibration is broadcasting into the quantum field, into the invisible architecture of reality, shaping what comes back to you. Now, here's the catch they never tell you. The universe doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you are. You can say abundance 1,000 times. You can meditate on luxury, script your dream life until your fingers go numb. But if the frequency underneath all of that is fear, lack, desperation, that's the signal. And the universe is always perfectly tuned to reflect it. Spiritual awakening rips the mask off your signal. It forces you to confront the truth behind your thoughts, the frequency beneath your affirmations. Because before you awaken, you're not really creating, you're reacting, projecting old programs onto new moments, trying to manifest change while vibrating the same unresolved pain. You can't fake your frequency. No vision board in the world can override a subconscious rooted in scarcity. No, I am wealthy, loop will out. Vibe the trauma you never faced. Awakening brings it all to the surface. The grief, the guilt, the shame you buried deep so you could function. And when it erupts, when you finally sit in that storm instead of running from it, something wild happens. You clear. You purge. And your signal starts to change, not because you tried to change it, but because you finally stopped pretending. And in that rawness, in that frequency of naked truth, manifestation starts happening differently. It's no longer push, pull, hustle, grind. It's gravity. You begin to attract not what you want, but what matches you. The real you. The awakened you. The version of you that doesn't need to prove or earn or convince anything into being. This is the science. The mechanics behind what mystics have been saying for centuries. That reality is not separate from you. That your inner state is the source code. But most people keep trying to write new outcomes using old scripts. They try to overlay love on top of abandonment wounds. Try to manifest success through the fear of being invisible. And then they wonder why it slips through their fingers. Spiritual awakening doesn't give you better tools. It gives you a cleaner signal. It doesn't teach you how to manifest more. It teaches you how to stop manifesting from your wounds. And that's when the game changes. Something subtle happens when you awaken. Something that flips everything you thought you knew about creation. You stop asking. You stop begging the universe to deliver. Because you realize there's nothing to beg for when you're already connected to the source of it all. This is the awakening effect. And it's not a mindset shift, it's a dimensional one. Before awakening, you're operating in a transactional reality. If I do this, I'll get that. After awakening, you're in alignment with the field itself. You don't reach for manifestations. They arrive because you're occupying the frequency where they already exist. This is not positive thinking. This is not just believe harder. This is you exiting the simulation of effort and entering the current of flow. In that current, you don't force manifestations. They follow you. Because you're no longer acting from lack. You're no longer trying to escape your present by projecting a fantasy future. You're rooted. Still. Fully here. And that's when the field opens. People call it luck. Serendipity. Divine timing. But what's really happening is this. You've stepped out of distortion and into coherence. You've synchronized with the underlying intelligence of reality. And that intelligence responds to purity. Not perfection, but energetic clarity. When you're clear, things move. And clarity doesn't come from controlling the outcome. It comes from surrender. From letting go of the version of you that needed everything to go exactly right in order to feel safe. Once that version dissolves, you realize there's no more trying. Only resonance. The person who tries to manifest love from a wounded place ends up attracting lessons. The person who is love, who radiates it without effort, doesn't attract. They magnetize. Automatically. Without scripts or strategies. It's the same with wealth, purpose, health. When you awaken, the manifestation doesn't come to you. It comes through you. You become the channel. The difference. Before, you were a clogged pipe. Now, you're an open current. The frequency has changed. And when the frequency changes, so does the reality. This is the awakening effect. And the deeper it goes, the less you chase, and the more you become the kind of person things naturally flow to. We're not done. Because once you've left the old frequency behind, there's something else that begins to emerge, a new self. One that no longer creates from craving, but from completion. And that self is where the real power lives. The moment you step out of the chase and into alignment, something radical happens. You stop manifesting from the ego, and you start manifesting from the self. Not the self that was shaped by childhood, or fear, or the need to be seen, but the self that existed before your name, before your story. The one that doesn't need anything because it is everything. This is the aligned self. When you're in alignment, you're not trying to become worthy of your desires. You realize your desires were only ever reflections of your true nature trying to remember itself. It's no longer, I want success. It's, I am the vibration that success flows to. It's no longer, I need love. It's, love lives in me so deeply. It spills into everything I touch. Manifestation isn't a tactic here. It's your natural state. But this kind of alignment can't be faked. It's not performance. You can't mantra your way into it. You have to go through the fire. You have to meet every false belief, every inherited fear, every part of you that thought you weren't enough, and watch it crumble. That's when you stop manifesting out of desperation. You don't want the money to feel powerful. You feel powerful, so the money responds. You don't need the relationship to feel whole. You are whole. And relationships become mirrors of that wholeness instead of replacements for your emptiness.
A quick message. This space has become something truly special for many of us. A community of people on a shared journey of spiritual growth, healing, and awakening. Your comments and stories inspire me every day, and it's clear there's so much more we can create together, especially since this path can feel lonely at times. That's why we've created a spiritual space on Patreon, a sanctuary for deeper connection, exclusive content, and meaningful conversations with others from this channel who share your journey. Together, we can build something uplifting, authentic, and spiritually powerful. If this resonates with you and you'd like to be part of something bigger, whatever you're going through, you'll find the link in the description or pinned in the comments. Your membership not only helps support the channel, but also helps grow this beautiful community. Let's create something amazing together.
This is the paradox. The less you need, the more comes. Not because you've given up, but because your frequency is no longer distorted by lack. And now, reality can finally see you. Clearly. Directly. This is why awakened manifestors move differently. They're not hustling. They're not scripting outcomes. They're living from a place where those outcomes are just natural extensions of who they already are. And when you embody that, life becomes fluid. Opportunities feel like echoes, not surprises. Relationships feel like recognition, not conquest. Wealth feels like a reflection, not a reward. Because you're not playing the game anymore. You are the field. But this isn't theory. It's lived. And there are people out there, right now, who've walked through their own inner collapse and emerged radiating at such a high frequency. Reality has no choice but to reorganize itself around them. Let's meet them. They didn't read a book and suddenly start manifesting miracles. They broke, shattered, faced every shadow they'd spent a lifetime avoiding. One woman described it like drowning in herself. She had everything on the outside: money, status, control, but inside, she was starving. The more she tried to manifest her way out, the worse it got. Until she stopped. She let go of the rituals, the goals, even the identity of being a powerful creator. And in that space, where there was nothing left to prove, something cracked open. She said the first sign wasn't a new car or job or lover. It was peace. A peace so unfamiliar, it scared her. But from that stillness came clarity. And then, the things she chased for years began to arrive effortlessly. Clients. Deep love. A home that felt like a mirror of her soul. Not because she wanted them, but because she no longer needed them to feel complete. Another man talked about a breakdown that looked like failure. Lost his job. Relationship collapsed. His savings evaporated. He said it felt like the universe had betrayed him, until he realized it wasn't punishment. It was an invitation. He'd been manifesting from fear, from needing to be seen, to matter. And life stripped all of it away, leaving only what was real. He started sitting in silence for hours, not to force answers, but to feel what was underneath the noise. And one day, without even thinking, he wrote down an idea that changed his life, a project that turned into a business, that turned into freedom. He didn't manifest success. He aligned with the version of himself that was no longer chasing it. And now, he says money is just energy. That he doesn't even set goals anymore. He just listens, acts, trusts, and things keep showing up. Because when you're rooted in truth, the universe doesn't resist you. It rushes to meet you. There are thousands of these stories. Different faces, same frequency. People who stopped trying to control the external and went internal instead. Who realized manifestation isn't about building a better illusion. It's about dissolving everything that kept them from seeing they were the source all along. And they'll all tell you the same thing. Once you awaken, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And when what you are is pure, aligned, awake, the world rearranges itself to match. But awakening doesn't just happen. It's cultivated, activated. And that's where daily practice becomes the bridge. Awakening isn't a lightning strike. It's a daily ignition. Every moment you choose presence over projection, every breath you take that isn't just air, but awareness, you're tuning the dial. There are practices that don't just calm the mind, they rewire your field. Tools that aren't about escape, but embodiment. And once you commit to them, not as rituals, but as reality, they begin to sharpen your frequency like a blade. One of the most powerful is silence. Not meditation as performance. not trying to quiet the mind. Just pure stillness. No music. No mantras. Just you. Watching the machine of thought until you realize you are not the machine. You are the space it moves through. Then there's conscious movement. Not exercise. Not burn calories, but waking up the body. Feeling the energy inside it. Shaking loose the trauma stored in muscle, fascia, bone. Because trauma isn't mental. It's cellular. And when you move with intention, you begin to release what talking could never reach. Breathwork is another. Not the trendy kind, but the ancient kind. The kind that brings you to the edge of ego death. That rips open the cage you didn't know you were living in. One session can shift your entire baseline. Why? Because breath is the bridge between body and spirit. And most people are breathing like they're trying not to be here. Fix the breath, and the body remembers who it is. And then there's journaling, but not Dear Diary. This is interrogation. Cutting through the illusions. Asking questions like, who am I without my story? What am I pretending not to know? What have I built my identity on? And is it even real? You do that every day and your unconscious doesn't stay unconscious for long. But none of this works if you're using it to manifest more stuff. These aren't hacks. They're doorways. Into presence. Into coherence. Into a life that doesn't require chasing because it's already aligned. And the final practice, letting go. The hardest one. Releasing attachment to outcomes. Releasing the identity that was addicted to control. This is where people fall off. Because letting go feels like dying. And in a way, it is. But what rises after, that's the self that was always waiting. The self that doesn't manifest from desire, but from design. A design that was encoded in you before you forgot who you were. And now, you're remembering. Everything we've explored is pointing to one truth. There is a version of you that already has the life you're trying to create. And the only thing between you and that version is the part of you that thinks you have to earn it. The final piece is coming. And when it lands, you'll see why the awakened don't manifest with effort. They manifest by being. You're not here to chase your future. You're here to remember it. Because the version of you who already has everything, the peace, the love, the wealth, the freedom, doesn't exist in some distant timeline. They're here, right now, waiting beneath the noise, beneath the programming, beneath the story that says you have to try harder, become more, do it perfectly. Spiritual awakening burns that story to the ground. And when the smoke clears, you're not left with nothing. You're left with clarity. The quiet, unshakable knowing that you were never separate. Never broken. Never behind. That knowing is the key. Because once you hold it, the things you used to obsess over just happen. This is why the awakened manifest without obsession. They aren't reaching out. They're radiating. Their frequency becomes so stable, so clean, that reality has no choice but to respond. Not in chaos, but in synchronicity, in alignment, in flow. And that's what was missing all along. It wasn't your vision. It wasn't your mindset. It wasn't your strategy. It was you, still playing out a version of yourself that didn't know it was divine. But now, you do. And the longer you live from that awareness, the more your external life starts to mirror it. Not slowly, not someday, instantly, subtly, radically. It starts small. A chance encounter. A gut feeling that turns out right. A door you didn't even knock on opens without a sound. But those aren't coincidences. They're confirmations. Proof that the field is listening. And more importantly, that it's you speaking. Because the future you, the one who has it all, they're not separate. They're not waiting. They're remembered. And now, so are you. Everything you've heard, felt, and remembered up to this point leads here. You are the source. Not a co-creator. Not a student of some universal algorithm. The source. The reality around you isn't reacting to your thoughts. It's mirroring your state. And once that state is awake, aligned, and uncloaked from the illusion of separation, manifestation stops being magic. It becomes math. Predictable. Precise. Inevitable. But don't mistake inevitability for passivity. The awakened don't sit around waiting for the universe to deliver. They move. Not from fear. Not from need. From resonance. They act when the energy says move. They rest when the silence says stay. And everything unfolds in rhythm, not randomness. This is the future you've always felt but couldn't explain. The one where you don't hustle for alignment, you live from it. Where you don't beg for signs, you are the sign. Because awakening isn't just a realization, it's a frequency. And that frequency, once stabilized, bends time, bends space, bends probability, without effort, without force. You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to remember. Remember what it feels like to move through the world without resistance. Remember what it means to speak without distortion. Remember what it is to be without needing anything to complete you. From that place, manifestation isn't a goal. It's a consequence. You stop trying to become powerful because you realize you always were. And now, the field remembers you, just like you remembered it. And this is only the beginning. So here you are, not at the end, but at the threshold. Now you've seen it, felt it. The illusion cracks. The signal clears. And reality starts to answer to the real you, not the mask. This is the ultimate shift. Not from lack to abundance, from sleep to awareness. Because once you're awake, you don't attract, you align. You don't wish, you witness. You don't chase, you channel. Everything begins to orbit around your presence, not your performance. And you realize it was never about manifesting more things. It was about becoming the frequency that makes things irrelevant. The irony, that's when everything shows up. Not as bait for your ego, but as reflections of your truth. You're not here to manipulate the universe. You're here to remember you were it. And once that remembrance locks in, deep, cellular, unshakable, life stops testing you and starts mirroring you. That's not a miracle. That's coherence. And now, you carry it. Every step you take from here, every word you speak, every breath you draw, let it come from that place. The field is already responding. Your future isn't coming. It's arrived.